Hello everybody, Mike Tenney here at the Tenney School for Tenney Vlog number 8. Today we are talking about social skills for teenagers, and we have a special guest here to join us today, Wendy Dawson. Thank you for joining us, Wendy.
Thank you, Mike, for having me.
And Wendy is the founder and executive director of Social Motion Skills here in Houston, and which makes her the perfect person to come and join us to talk about social skills for teenagers. And for those of you who don't know, the Tenney Vlog is a series of live videos that we're doing to try to help educators and parents. We're taking on topics that we think will be helpful to parents and educators to help their child achieve the next level of success. And today we're talking about social skills specifically. If you find this information helpful, please do us a favor and subscribe to our channel below, or leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to get your comments on what we talk about today. So without further ado, we will go on. So Wendy, why don't you, before we get into the topic, tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got into social skills.
So thank you, Mike, and so glad to be here with everybody today. I founded Social Motion in 2010 out of need for my family, and frankly a need for the community, because we couldn't find these skills for my son.
Okay.
And so Social Motion Skills started as a small classroom with about 6 or 8 kids, and just overwhelmingly we had feedback from the community and everybody saying, my kid needs this, whether they had special needs or whether they were mainstream kids. I think the realization of how important social skills are to help our kids gain self-esteem and self-awareness and really be able to achieve their potential in life today really caught on.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, I liked we put there in the intro that we want to help our kids thrive in life, and social skills really is a key to helping them thrive. And I remember when you just started off, you visited the school many years ago, you just had a brochure in your hand, and now you've got like lots of things going on, and obviously this is you've tapped into something really important here.
Thank you.
I think this is a really neat topic to take on this time of year as we head into the summer months. We have a lot of families that are kind of ramping down on the academic side, and I think it's a perfect time. I know we as a family are going to work on social skills this summer, and so this is a perfect time to kind of talk about this topic and how we can help our kids. So let's jump right into it, and let me ask you off the bat, what are social skills? So let's just get that one out there to begin with.
I love that question. Everybody always asks me, so, well, what are social skills exactly? How do you describe these interactions and these things that most of us do naturally and never even think about? But for a lot of kids nowadays, whether it's because they're constantly on their electronic devices or whatever we think that, today's generation is doing differently, a lot of our kids nowadays don't pick up on these nuances. And so I like to define social skills as really all the things that you should say and should do when you interact with somebody. And that is still very nebulous. So we start actually breaking that down. And it really comes down to communication, both verbal and nonverbal. What are you saying? How are you saying this? What tone of voice are you using? Do you have the right tone of voice? Do you have the right voice frequency and volume? What is your body language doing with this? Are you engaged with your mind and your body? Are you positioned to have this conversation with somebody? And does the other person really feel like they're having a reciprocal conversation with you when you're talking with them?
Yeah. So I just jumping in, I would say you mentioned the devices, the cell phones, and I think that this generation is facing a harder hill to climb to learn social skills because of the way we have become so digitized and the social media and the devices. We as a school actually have we manage cell phones a little differently. When our kids check in during the day, they walk through what used to be a mail room, and they have a mail slot that they put their phones in, and they keep them there throughout the day. But if you go to teenager hangout places, I think we've all seen it, where there's 5 teenagers hanging out and they're doing this. And they're not
talking to each other, sitting next to them.
Yeah, and that just the whole interactive way of interpreting body language, and they're just not even doing it the way we had to when we were kids. When that's just the way that we communicated. So I think our society has set us up to face even more challenges now, just because of the way the devices. Would you agree?
We have a funny little example that we use to tackle that situation exactly, and it's showing kids the difference of a sentence in text versus writing it on the board and having everybody say that sentence out loud with emphasis on a different word. And the sentence we use is, I didn't say you were beautiful. So you text that to somebody and then we have them read, I didn't say you were beautiful. I didn't say you were beautiful. I didn't say you were beautiful. And the kids really have this aha moment of all of that expression, all of that subliminal nuance of communication really is lost in a flat text.
Sure.
So absolutely echo that and just extrapolate that into the other things that your kids are talking about. And as they grow, particularly in the middle school years, these ideas and these feelings that they are trying to communicate that really are not able to be expressed in flat black words on a screen.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Okay, so we've discussed a little bit about social skills, and I think, well, let me add on to, we talked about this before we started. I think, this is one of those things where people say, well, you know it when you see it, social skills, right? It's natural, it comes natural, people know it. But the reality is it's a very, very complex thing. And so these things that are social skills, they happen based off of clues that happen so quickly, and how you respond to somebody's facial expression or their demeanor or how they feel. A lot of us can do it naturally, but if you are a half a second late on these things, then all of a sudden you're awkward. And so it isn't really natural for everybody, and you can see how just a little bit of timing off causes you to be in the wrong place at the wrong time with other people. And so that's kind of, it's easy for me now to see how difficult it is to develop social skills if you are just a little bit off. So why don't you take us now and tell us a little bit about what are some social skills killers?
Social skills killers. Probably the top of the list is going to be monopolizing the conversation.
Okay.
Because just like we are having conversation reciprocity here, I'm politely waiting for you to finish your train of thought, then the volley goes back and forth, and that's how conversation progresses. If I were to sit here and all of a sudden start perseverating on the moon or space or trains or trucks or dinosaurs or the latest fashion trend, it never gives you a chance to participate in the conversation. And so pretty soon you lose interest, and then your eyes start wandering around. And if I don't pick up on the fact that I have just monopolized you and never given you the chance to talk back with me, that all I'm doing is talking to you, then that's not a real conversation. And that's just a big social killer.
Sure.
For my kids in school and kind of the elementary and middle school age, I think being the rule police is a big social killer too, because we like our kids to be rule followers. We like them to go get in line when they're supposed to and be able to respect personal space, but nobody likes to be reminded over and over, you can't do that, you can't get in line, so-and-so cut, you took too long, and the kids don't really like that. And so when the rule police pops up and it becomes a negative in the day and their interactions, and it's unexpected and unanticipated, it's really a big turnoff to other people. So
yeah, we kind of have a side one in our family on this. It's not exactly the same, but we call it Mr. Technicality.
Yes.
When somebody says, oh, you need to be there at, we're going to be there at noon. And oh, actually, 12:05 is when we need to be there. Thank you, Mr. Technicality. That was not helpful.
Yes.
But sometimes those kids, they love to correct others and be exactly right. And that is a social skills killer.
It's a killer. Kills the conversation, kills the fun.
Yeah.
And that precision sometimes just isn't necessary for the sake of conversation.
Sure. Okay, any others on our list of things that we wanted to talk about?
I think kind of aging up with the kids, elementary, middle school, as they get older, one of the things that we notice is a big social skill killer is that they're unaware of how to interrupt and the awkwardness in conversations that causes, and how to make that approach appropriately to enter into a conversation. And this could be as simple as when two people are having a lunchtime conversation, or if we are having a business conversation in our office, blurting in the kind of lack of ability to understand how do you make an interruption, stand there politely, wait for a break in the conversation. That's what they're missing. But the fact that they interrupt, and oftentimes without a reason to interrupting, is really a poor social skill, and something that we try to teach our kids.
Sure. Yeah, I think something we talked about beforehand at our school, what I see and we'll tell parents is, especially kids that are a little bit socially awkward, that are extroverted versus introverted, they experience things very differently. So a child that's extroverted at our school or introverted at our school, even if they're a little bit socially awkward, they tend to do pretty well because they don't do things like interrupt conversations. If they are extroverted, they'll oftentimes jump in on other kids' conversations in ways that are not appropriate, and then it causes other kids to get frustrated and angry, and so it leads to negative consequences for the interrupter. So oftentimes that extroverted, awkward kid is the one that's going to experience more negative consequences in life and in school. At least that's certainly what we see here at the Tenney School. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about what are social skills and some killers of social skills. Now let's take on a little bit about why social skills are important.
We like very simply to say that social skills are so important because you get more yeses in life. Just like what we've been talking about. If you blurt out all the time, if you don't know how to have reciprocal conversations, who's going to invite you around?
Yeah.
Who's going to find you likable and pleasant to be around? And so you're not getting invited to the birthday parties. You're not getting invited on the playground to be picked on the team. And those start killing little things, those little feelings inside the kids. Yeah. And so take that a step further. You are not going to have the recommendations. You're not going to be in that pool of kids. Who's doing hobbies? Where are the networks being formed? And basically, we have a very long-range vision in what we do and working with kids for their life path solutions. And so we want yeses all along the way. We want to be included. We want to be included in groups. Ultimately, we want that letter of recommendation. We want that yes to further education. We want that yes to the job. And so if we don't have these precursory social skills that we've been working on from early on, those yeses just don't happen.
Yeah, I think the thing that can be a struggle is a lot of times you try to convince your child that this is really important, and they have this mindset of, I don't care about that, I don't care about that. And oftentimes you can't convince them of the importance until there is a negative consequence. And oftentimes it takes that before you have an opportunity as a parent to jump in and say, well, this is why we've been talking about these things, is because you could avoid not being invited. You could have friendships develop more fully if you paid attention to these things. So unfortunately, as parents, a lot of times you have to look for those negative consequences in order to speak into your child's life.
We love those social learning moments, as we call them, and kind of big parent words are intentions and interpretations. And so as parents, we know what our children's intentions are. We know that they're trying to play, or they want to join the group or join the project, but how are they being interpreted by the other kids or even people in a public setting is really important for us to be cognizant of and to be able to explain to our kids. And a perfect example, this young boy that I know wanted to join the soccer game on the playground at recess, and so he went and he stole the ball because his intention is to join the game. So if I have the ball, people have to play with me. I've now forcibly put myself in the middle of the game. I get to pick who I throw the ball back to. But when we explained to him, how do you think everybody else interpreted that? 1, you upset the rules of the game. 2, you stopped the game throw. And 3, you stole the ball. And so I don't think he had ever really thought about, my intention was to join the game, but the way he went about it was really wrong. And so opening your child's eyes, really helping them understand, thinking about you, thinking about me, and those how are they being interpreted and what are they doing that turns other kids off, all of a sudden you'll have that aha moment and you'll see that light bulb go off and say, oh, I get it now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I get why that wouldn't be so fun to be around. If those tables were turned,
Right.
I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me.
Sure, and that's that whole training them to seek the yes, that
Yes.
they're going to get a no
Right.
if they exhibit those behaviors over and over again, but if they can learn a few things,
Yeah.
maybe they can get a yes. All right, so we've tackled what are social skills, some social skills killers, why are they important. So now we want to spend a little bit of time talking about how do we help our kids develop social skills.
Right. It's just really practice. It is getting them out there, putting them in new situations that may be a little uncomfortable, not conversations or situations where they are going to be unhappy. We don't want to kind of throw them to the wolves, as we say, but let's go try something new, maybe in an environment that they know, meeting a new person, or they're going to go with somebody comfortable in a new environment. It's what we call front loading. It's basically preparing them for the situation that's about to come and letting them know, who are we going to meet? For example, if you're meeting somebody with a title, tell them what that title is. What does that mean? So that then they get to practice really making a positive impression by, you know, if our new friend is a judge, for example, hello, Your Honor, and watch that person's face really light up when they say, who's this kid? And what great social skills they have that they're able to introduce themselves in such a professional manner. So I think practice, and really use those teachable moments with your child to point out what they can be expecting, and then also don't hesitate to say, you know, that was a little awkward, wasn't it? You know, what could we have done better, or what do you think that person was expecting that you didn't give them? So.
Yeah, I mean, I think about with our family, so going to order food at a restaurant, and it's kind of a simple thing, and I think especially like fast food, it's easy for us as parents to just say, I'm just going to order, I'm going to ask them what they want, and then I'm going to order. But that's an opportunity to really train a social skill. There's going to be an interaction that takes place here. So think about it ahead of time. What are you going to order, and how are you going to order so that it makes the most sense to the person that you're talking to? And so there's a big social opportunity there to train at a restaurant or even a fast food restaurant. And there's dozens of opportunities like that in the day where you could, as a parent, you could just do it yourself, but it might be better to take that opportunity to front load it and teach the child what to do, and then watch them do it and debrief it at the end, see how they did.
That's a really interesting concept, and one of the things that we battle is learned helplessness. And so actually by not giving your child the opportunity in a safe way to practice teaches them that they are not able to order for themselves, perhaps. And so going on and on, if you are taking away these learning moments from them and not realizing that your child growing up really is, it's a passage of independence. It's a transfer of competencies that you have got to emulate. You have got to show them what these skills in the community look like and give them a chance to practice. They're not perfect. We weren't perfect at their age, but if you never practice, you're never going to have the ability to grow into what's socially acceptable today.
Yeah, I think sometimes parents' pride gets in there where they're like, they feel like because their kid can't order at a restaurant or doesn't know how to meet somebody well, it's better for them to be in the middle. And it makes them look better as parents, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you feel like your child is going to be socially awkward, it's easier to jump in and do it for them, and that's really not long-term where you want to be.
Right. Go back to practice. You raised an interesting point, too, and we're talking about perhaps new or different situations in the community, and something I get asked a lot is, how do we help our kids understand the difference between stranger danger and appropriate interactions with, I call them like service people in the community? And summer is really, I think, an important time to address this issue because we're out of our regular routine. The kids aren't at school anymore, and so we're going perhaps to vacation places or to the pool or to new little ice cream shops. taking advantage to run some of those errands that we didn't have time. And so our kids, they've learned to be safe. So this idea of stranger danger hopefully is not going to go too far. And some of the ideas we like to express in this is helping them understand, where are you?
Mm-hmm.
For example, are you in a shoe store? And is the person who's approaching you asking, what would you like today? Are they in a uniform perhaps? Are they talking to you about what is appropriate for that time and place and staying on topic? Are they appropriately spaced from you? They're obviously, a shoe salesman or, a server in a restaurant really shouldn't come too close to you. And even though they are strangers, you've never met them before, it's a big cognitive process for particularly our younger kids or those who may have learning differences to understand where's that fine line between stranger danger and appropriate social skills in a safe environment. It's really interesting. And parents, that's where you really have to be the leader for your child.
So in our family, we've actually used Mr. Bean as a training device. I don't know if you guys like Mr. Bean,
show.
but like all the most socially awkward moments happen with Mr. Bean. And I guess Seinfeld might be the same way, kind of talking through socially awkward situations as adults. But all right, well, Wendy, that's been a lot of great material, a lot of great conversation. We could probably go on and on and on for days. There's just so many different little situations that you can end up in socially, and so many different things that we as parents need to be aware of and need to be training and thinking about and pre-planning for and anticipating. Why don't you, before we kind of close out here, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you guys have going over there at Social Motion Skills?
Thank you. So social skills is obviously near and dear to my heart. That's why our company was formed. Not to be therapy, not to be a school, but really to be a supplement and a complement to the great therapists and the educators that we have in our market, really to focus on these sometimes unnatural social skills, because we truly believe that self-esteem and self-awareness and helping these kids get over any awkwardness that they might have, or simply understand that they are fine the way they are, but people do have certain expectations of them. That's really the driving force behind everything that we do. We work with all ages of kids, from preschool to elementary, tween, middle school market, teens. We pull in a lot of peer-typical mentors from our schools and the local charity groups, the local service groups. And then we have a full-time transition program that we're running now, where we continue to work on social skills, because when you look at the life path of these children, those social skills never end. They just simply morph and kind of change from what do we need to do as an elementary school child through our teen years, and then ultimately into our young adult years, trying to achieve employment. So Social Motion, we run after-school programs. We have a full-time transition program, including our Aspire Accessories Workshop, and we love all our kids, and we say that our superpower is finding yours. So we'd love to meet you.
Very cool. And where can they find you on the web?
Our web address is www.socialmotionskills, that is plural, skills.org. We are a local nonprofit, and thankful for all of our friends and families and supporters and our great community collaborators like the Tenney School. Thank you.
Well, absolutely. Thank you. So you guys go check her out. Go check them out on the web. And I'm sure they've got some things that are of interest to you. I know that we are personally interested in some of the things that they have going on there. Their driver's program is driver's ed program is especially well known. So go check them out. And otherwise, thank you guys for joining us today. If you're interested in learning more about the Tenney School, please go to our website, www.tennyschool.com. We'd love to hear from you, learn more about your child and how we might help you. And otherwise, we will see you next time.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Very cool. That was awesome. I enjoyed that.
You did great. very
You
very
know,
nice.
I just talk better than, make some notes and kind of remember
Well,
things.
I mean,
and-
some people need. I mean, that's the way I prefer to do it. Just general
Yeah.
outline, and then just go, and
Mhm.
then wherever the conversation takes us. I mean, there's stuff that I said that we talked about ahead of time,
Right.
and then there's other things that occur to you as you go, and I think that's the more natural way, especially doing it live, is to just kind of take stuff in as it, and then kind of go back to the outline and
Right.
You know,
Just make sure you got what you wanted to accomplish today. So thank
Yes.
you. That was fun.
absolutely.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome.
Close this
Y'all
out here.
continue to have a